All right, guys, we'll get this started. Bob has been generous enough to take some time out from his day to kind of help all of us get better at persistency and placement. One of the big topics and kind of helping us all make a whole lot of more money and keeping our money that we get. Bob is, I find Bob, I'm highly respected in my mind. Bob's had a tremendous career with Transamerica, working with them. I would say how many years, Bob, but I'll probably screw it up. But and he retired from Transamerica, and then he came aboard to the Alliance to work with Andy and help all of us out over here on this side. Just amazing thing, and all this stuff. Knowing Bob for the number of years I've known him, and the way Andy looks at Bob, it just great respect for him, and just tremendous at what he does. So with that, guys, let's have Bob. We did send your email out, so everyone that's on the call should have those forms as well. But with that, Bob, if you take it over, appreciate it, bud.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon to everyone. Assuming we're on Eastern time, as Andy suggested, I have had a number of years in the business, 30 of them. So I've had a chance to see the good, the bad, the ugly. What's interesting in the insurance business, which is maybe no different than think of your hobbies, think of other things you enjoy doing. There's a difference between people who just go through the motions versus people who do what they do with craft. People who really work on making a difference in how they approach things, making sure that they get the value out of what they do in everything they do. I love John Maxwell's book on intentional living. He says one of the most important things in life is have an idea where you're headed. And if you have an idea where you're headed, then you can make choices every step of the way that gets you closer to where you want to be. That seems all too simple, but it's something I have to remind myself all the time, because I get distracted by the weather, by my family, by different things. And the next thing you know, I'm doing something that really doesn't get me toward where I want to be. How does that relate to insurance? How does it relate to selling quality business? Well, once again, no one has any more time in the day than anyone else. Andy Albright is a very successful guy, but one thing he does not have, he has no more time in his day than any of us do. He is a master at spending his time on those things that get him closer to attaining or exceeding his goals. And in the area of conservation and quality business, which is what we're here to talk about today, I've captured in a document some things that you can be doing in advance of the home interview, during the home interview, or following the home interview that can help improve the percentage of cases that you present to people actually go issue paid, and the percentage of those that continue to be in a premium paying mode. There's something that I may or may not have, well, I have captured in this material, and I'm going to highlight it. And by the way, I'm going to go through this material highlighting different components. I'm not going to read through it. You can do that. What I invite you to do, if there was something written in one of these comments that I don't talk about, or something you're curious about, ask the question and we'll talk about it. I will tell you that this information is not original material by Bob Grannan. I'd like to take that credit, but at this moment I'm acknowledging the fact that it reflects things I've learned in my experience, but it also reflects material that's in 2 videos that Andy Albright put together on placement and persistency. It reflects training material from the Alliance University. I also had a conversation with a number of people who are at the top of their game in terms of high placement, high persistency, and people who are not only high in that level, but they also are high performers. And I will say that Olga was one of the people I spoke to because I wanted to get their ideas on this. And one of the first questions I posed to them is, what are things you do that you believe contribute to the success you're having? and I've captured those points here. There's something about mindset, and I think it's Andy Riddle who, I think I've seen Andy Riddle talk more about mindset on stage more than once. And I have to share a little story about Bob Grannan. My earliest memory was when I was about 6 years old, and I had a brother, 14, die. It's interesting. You think back when your earliest memories are. Well, that was one of my earliest memories. I have memories of a funeral home. I have memories of that occurring. I have memories of how it affected my family. I grew up in a very modest environment. Mom and dad didn't do a whole lot more than living paycheck to paycheck. Mother had a system of envelopes in her purse, and she would cash dad's check, and the cash would go in those envelopes to take care of groceries, take care of utilities, take care of things. Money was not something they had a surplus of, but something they did have was life insurance. Mother bought policies on all of us as small children. They were only $500 policies at the time, but that was something that left an impression upon me. We wouldn't go on vacation. I couldn't go to summer camp. I couldn't go to the movies anytime I wanted as a small kid before I started getting a job because mom and dad just simply did not have the money. But they had the money for life insurance. And I think part of the reason it was so important to them is they lost a child at a time that, that was just horrific for them, but they found the importance of it. So what's the bottom line of that story? Think of the mindset. Think of the fact that what we do, no one else does. No one else brings a paycheck when someone dies. Most people are looking for money. Go in with that mindset when you sit down with someone and convey that to them so they understand the impact of the decision they're making. Having said that, it leads me into the start of this discussion. In addition to just the passion about the business that comes with understanding that, I would say to you that if someone currently is at 70% placement rate and they move to 75% placement rate, which is our target, they could get a 7% increase in pay. Where in people around you could they get an increase in pay so easily? I didn't say sell more business. I just said get more people to accept the business. If someone's out there at 65% going to 75%, that's a 15% increase. If someone's down in the 55% range going to 75, that's a 36% increase. You have the opportunity to dramatically change your income by moving these numbers up. Now, know that we have lots of people pushing 90% in placement rate. So when I say 75, if you're at 75 and we're saying, hey, that's the company target, what if you took it to 80 or 85? It would be dramatic for you. And not seeing one more customer. Folks, it's huge. It is significant. Number two, that there's a correlating number of people who now have coverage. And I suspect on this call, there's a number of people who have delivered a claim check. My suspicion is when you delivered a claim check, you might have said something like, I wish it could have been bigger. Isn't that interesting? In my 30 years in the insurance business, I'm not aware of any insurance company being sued for selling too much insurance. There's always a need greater than what you're able to provide. So use that as something of confidence in getting your mind right, walking in. I'm going to start out talking about some things we can do in preparation. And part of preparation is just what I described. For those of you who are new to this business, I realize you may be here pursuing an opportunity to make an income, but the motto of the Alliance is have fun, make money, make a difference. Now, we realize when you first start, making money may be the number one thing. You will not sustain that if you're not enjoying yourself. If you're not enjoying what you do, you won't pop out of bed excited about going to see the next customer. If you're not making a difference, you're going to have moments of doubt. So that motto is so appropriate for the business we're in. It just couldn't be any better. And I love it because I also know that if a person is just having fun, not making money and not making a difference, after a while, the fun will dissipate. But I also know that if you're having fun, making money and making a difference, you only want to do more. It's an energizer. I'm probably the most senior person on this call, but I look forward to going to the family reunion. I look forward to going to Instant Thunder. I look forward to going to our various hotspots because it energizes Bob Grannan. If you were to talk to my wife, Deborah, I've had a number of people ask her about how does Bob like this retirement thing and working with the Alliance. Before I answer, she answers because she sees the enthusiasm and the energy. I can't overstate the power of being enthusiastic about what you do as you sit across the table from a customer. Believe in what you do. Know that no other profession can deliver what you do and the impact you can have in terms of keeping families together. 4 years ago, I lost a 50-year-old brother-in-law to cancer. He was diagnosed on a Wednesday. He died on Friday. About 6 months later, his widow had to sell her house. She could not stay in it. I've seen what it's like when people don't have a good plan in place to take care of the basic demands of living on a day-to-day basis. So, as you think about your business, keep that in mind. And that's part of our preparation. And this gets at some of the points in the first section I call preparation. When you have leads and referrals, people responded to a lead for a reason. It is not going to be totally apparent in the lead nor in your call when you set the appointment, nor should you try to figure that out at that point in time. But know going in, it is imperative for you to understand that. Because if you understand it, you're going to be on a common ground with that customer and can reinforce what they're thinking when you're with them. When you're setting that appointment, I'm a big believer in the old technique called lock it down. Now, I've heard different people describe what lock it down means, but what it means to me is make sure, increase the likelihood, the right people are going to be there when you arrive, and they know you're coming, and they know you're coming to respond to an inquiry they made. How do you lock it down? I think some of the greatest techniques are asking a person to put it into their calendar. Asking a person about directions and saying, I'm going to use GPS. Well, GPS worked pretty well in finding your home. In the event I have a failure with my GPS, give me a landmark. What you're doing is telling them, if my GPS fails, if it's raining, I'm still showing up. You're making sure they understand it's important to you, and it's important to you because you believe it's important to them. The technique of saying, okay, now what time did I say I'm going to be stopping by? Somebody says, that seems kind of silly. No. In life, there are certain statistics that tell us that we remember about 20% of what we hear, give or take 5%. Well, if I've given you a time and we've had a brief conversation, I do want you to remember certain information for sure, and that is when I'm going to be there. So lock it down, make sure they understand it's important. And just because you mention it twice is not an insult. It's evidence of increase of importance. It's kind of interesting to me. I got a follow-up note yesterday from Andy Riddle saying, we still good with the call? Now, I realized I had a conflict last week when we tried to pull this off, so it gave him good reason to follow up with me. But that follow-up was not an insult. It reminded me it's important to Andy and the team. Get prepared for that time frame, and when you're setting that appointment, make sure you got a window of time. Don't let someone have you be what I call NASA precise. The rocket's taken off at 12:01.5. You don't need to have that precise of an appointment. Make sure you tell someone, I'm going to be there within this time frame, be it an hour, be it a 2-hour window, so they understand there could be some shifting. I also say it's important to get together your information before you go. Get organized. Do you have applications if you're using paper app? Do you have brochures? Do you have a buyer's guide? Do you have your underwriting grid? Do you have the tools? Have you downloaded the software to make sure you do premium calculations. And as you do that, use folders, use a binder, use things to get organized. Make sure your ATM is fresh and ready to go. A little bit of preparation up front saves an awful lot of frustration, anxiety at the time you get to the home. And I'm going to tell you what, I prefer to walk into a doctor's office seeing things organized. I prefer to get on an airplane and see things organized, as opposed to walking into seeing a place in disarray. Whenever I have a home repaired and a fellow shows up, a prospective builder, and the hubcaps are off the wheels, the truck is dirty, it's been wrecked 4 different times, I get there and have a little bit of hesitation around the pride the person takes in what they're doing. So your preparation demonstrates in a visual way you're prepared when you get there. Do not go in not prepared. That time spent will save you so much time later on. I'm going to pause at the preparation stage, and I'm not sure if Andy's on the call. I know that Olga and Jason's there, and a number of other folks, as well as, we have some very high producers on this call, including Kim. Are there other things you would add to think about at that time of preparation before we get to the home? I just want to pause for a second. Any comments there? All right, well, if you've got ideas to shoot over to Jessica, let her know, because we want to share those ideas as well. I'm going to move to a section called the in the home. When you get in the home, and I know that I think back of my discussion with Olga, and I think about the importance she placed on establishing a connection with the customer. It was time well spent there's a number of things we want to understand. We want to understand very clearly what's caused this person to send in a lead to begin with. Eric Belair does a phenomenal job when he describes his in-house interview, where he says, are your parents living today? Are your grandparents living today? If not, if so, what occurred? Can you tell me, was there a program in place at the time they passed? If so, how did that go? If there was not one in place, how did you handle those expenses? You're able to get an emotional connection with someone where they're thinking back real life. It's not imaginary. It's not your story. It's real life. And as you have that dialogue, you're helping the customer understand there's solid reason why we do these things. It is more important during the home interview for the customer to understand why they're doing what they're doing than it is for you to understand what you're doing. When an agent leaves, customers are going to talk about this purchase. They're going to talk about a decision they made. They're going to talk to the closest of friends. So if there's going to be any scrutiny, it's going to happen then. And you can only imagine the kind of question, why'd you do that? I don't have any. You're sure you want to do that? Whatever the question may be, hopefully someone says, congratulations, you made a good decision. But if they do question it, you want that customer to say, let me tell you why I did it. And by the way, here's the person's number. You ought to talk to them too, because you need to be considering this to protect your family. So having that dialogue and getting to know them is so important. Walking up to the house, you can see a beautiful flower garden. You can see a classic car. You could see a boat. You could see something. You could see a hummingbird feeder. And start a dialogue, because that's clearly something that's important to these people and they care about. And you've noticed that. You are aware. You walk into the home and you see this, what I call it, the wall of fame. It's the family. It's the multiple generations. It's the 27 grandkids. Nothing better than to have someone talk about themselves to get them to relax, number one. And number two, to get them listening. In other words, we can talk all we want, And one of the challenges with this for me today is I'm doing all the talking. It's much better when you have a chance to have people interact with you. Well, getting that person listening is an active participation in the interview. And the only way that's going to happen is if they think they can trust you. And they're going to show they trust you by being willing to share some personal information. I'm going to talk about the grandkids. I'm going to talk about back in the day when I played college basketball. I'm going to talk about the last big fish I caught. What a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to accomplish with folks if you can have that dialogue. And it's not about you, it's get them to talk about themselves. Now, critical to this is you still have to control the conversation. You don't need to run down the pedigree of all 27 grandkids. After about the second one, you might need to say, boy, you've got a great family. Apologize, but time's short. We need to make sure we talk about the business, why you wanted me here today. Making that connection because it is a business decision, but you're establishing rapport. For those of you who haven't, make sure your ATM is ready to go. An ATM does a couple of things. One is it provides what is referred to in the sales environment as a third-party influence. Instead of just looking at someone the whole time, making eye contact the whole time, staring them down possibly, you've got this tool you can say, let me show you something. What a powerful tool. For whatever reason, when it's in writing, people take credit, give a little more credibility sometimes than just the spoken word. Don't talk through the ATM word for word. Don't bore them with every single part of it. But you can sure as heck highlight those aspects that are very positive. And for the veterans, every now and then I have a veteran who say, well, I think that's just you're relying on a prop. What do you mean I'm relying on a prop? It is a tool. I use this as an analogy. I'm sure everyone on this call has been on an airplane. When I step through the door of an airplane, the first thing I do is I'll greet the flight attendant because you never want to upset a flight attendant. You want them on your side, right? The second thing I do is I look to my left generally, and I look into the pilot's area, the cockpit. Most often, I see these individuals in there going down a checklist. Guess what? I love it. I don't want them doing it from memory. I want them going down through a checklist every doggone time I step on. I'm a regular guy to get my annual physicals, and when I go to see my doctor, we'll have a dialogue. He'll ask what's going on in my life. He'll remember some things about, oh, you were doing this last time. How did the Senior Olympics go with basketball? Whatever it may be, he's going to remember that about me. We're going to talk about my health, and all of a sudden he's going to pull out this document. He's going to start running down the list. Do you have your flu shot? Do you have this? How's this going for you? Have any more trouble with that? He runs down the list. This fella has seen multiple people every day for many days, and it's been a year since we last saw each other. A little bit of luck if I haven't been ill in the meantime. But he goes down a checklist. Folks, use the ATM as evidence of your thoroughness, as evidence of covering things that are extremely important to them so that we don't leave something out and get distracted. To the extent you rely on it will vary with experience. Someone new, use it top to bottom. More experienced people, come in and out of it. Use it to your varying degree of need to help convey the importance to the customer, to get them engaged, and to help them go toward making a decision. Throughout all this discussion, number one is making sure we understand why. I'm a big advocate that I suggest taking a brochure that when you start getting into products, and you write down a couple notes in the brochure about why they're making this decision. I want to make sure that my expenses are covered when I die. I want to make sure that the kids can stay in their home. I want to make sure I can pay for child care if I lose my spouse, and I can continue on in a lifestyle we've become accustomed to. Make a note in the brochure. Write it down, and then slide over to the customer and say, would you mind initialing this? You initial it as well. Now, I'm going to tell you what, if someone does that, can you imagine ever wondering why they made a decision? I sure can't. I think it's a powerful way to ingrain that in their mind, a super way to help get that, just that little extra confidence about the importance of this. You know, in my case as a kid growing up, we had government provided powder milk. Why? Because they knew it was important. They weren't checking with anybody. They knew. So what's important here is making sure that the client understands why they're doing it. We're also gathering information during this discussion, and we want to be able to give a customer options to choose from. And options many times may just be levels of coverage. It's 10,000, it's 20,000, it's 100,000. Get people to choose. When people choose, they're choosing which way to go, not whether to go. They're choosing which way to go, not whether to go. And you want them going on a path that gets them closer to where they want to be. It's extremely important during this discussion to watch body language. That's something I heard from every individual I spoke to. Say all you want, listen all you want, watch the body language. Body language will show up when you start talking money. I tell people in my life, if you mess with my family or you mess with my money, there's a whole level of interest I take that's different than other times. We're messing with somebody's money. So watch the body language. If someone shows hesitancy, you may need to adjust the amount of coverage to see that they're comfortable with it. And remember, this is not the last time you plan to make a proposal to this customer. Insurance is a program. It grows over time. I bought my first policy as a junior in college. I bought several policies since then as my life changed. Marriage, kids, houses, dogs, success. All of a sudden, when I started being a little successful, I figured I needed to have a general liability insurance policy to protect me if somebody wanted to sue me when they stumbled walking through my yard. We've changed our program. You get more coverage because the house got bigger. The obligations got bigger. Get a person started in a way that works within their budget, and I'm optimistic their capacity to pay is going to grow over time. You come back for an annual review, you can add something to that. So make sure you're financially qualifying the person. I think it's important to know that in life insurance, there's really three critical things to get life insurance and have life insurance. Number one, you have to qualify. Not everybody does. Although I guess with our guaranteed issue, we can pretty much get anybody covered. You have to be capable of paying. And thirdly, which is kind of the challenging one, is they got to be willing to pay. So what you're watching in body language is willingness. If something were to occur, you're going to be able to adjust your budget to handle this obligation. If you think about it, folks, I'm not aware of any financial obligation that has a longer tail on it than life insurance. You buy a car, finance it for 3, 5, 7 years. You buy a house, finance it for 30 years. Buy life insurance, you could pay for 50, 60 years. It's a long tail. People need to understand what they're committing to and be prepared to make that commitment to their family. Whenever you run into a challenge, and I know this organization just is tremendous at it. When I talked to Andy, I talked to Big Mike, and I talked to other folks out there that I've gotten to know, and I look at the willingness of Kim and Olga to help people who call. All you have to do is call. Make sure you take advantage of that. You know, when challenged, get on the phone and call someone. Call that growing upline. Call that peer who can help you sort through options. Remember, all you have to say to a question, you would not say to a customer, gosh, I don't know what to do here. I'm going to call somebody. No. That's interesting. I'm going to call, we're a team in our organization. It's not just me. I don't have all the answers, but I have a team that has the answers. I'm going to make a phone call and make sure we get this right. Hang on a second. From what I've seen in this organization, people answer the phone. What a powerful tool. I think that if I'm sitting there having a conversation with someone at my home about some particular aspect of a home improvement or even a doctor, if that doctor shows any hesitation and gets another opinion, my opinion of him just skyrocketed. The confidence just goes out the ceiling. Take advantage of that, folks. There's a couple more things in this section that I sometimes think we lose track of and don't appreciate the impact it can have for us. And that's one is the ERS list, the emergency response list. By wanting the person to know, I will call other people if I can't get a hold of you, it says how important it is to have this business relationship. If I'm out of pocket, something's going on, I'm glad they would get a hold of somebody close to me to make sure I just didn't somehow miss making a payment or didn't somehow wasn't contacted. Get that information, and by the way, they become outstanding referrals and leads for other people. Looking for safe money. We continue to challenge as a company to get good completed green sheets. My mom and dad would talk about how much money they had and wouldn't even think about what was sitting over in this little retirement fund unless you ask questions about it and it comes up. If you think about middle income America, if you can improve the return or improve the protection of their money, you have now endeared them. Seldom do any professionals come to their home to help improve their life. Think about it. How many other professionals come to their home to help them out? The list is pretty short. If it's the minister, they're either looking for a donation or someone's pretty sick, right? Every now and then we do hear about nurses or certain call house care that comes to it. Not people who are there to actually enhance their life without it being a health issue. So being there and looking for safe money, giving them a better option, you have now endeared them for every other business relationship you have. You've not only given them life insurance, but now you've also given them a guaranteed return on their safe money. Another item is this whole idea of recruiting. Some folks are saying, I'm out to sell, I'm not recruiting. Let me tell you what, when you recruit, it tells, if you've established a rapport and somebody respects you and you now ask them to join your team, I don't know about you, but I don't always have people ask me to join their team. But when they do, I think I've passed some scrutiny with them. They think something of me. They also think that maybe he likes what he's doing. Well, if you're proud of what you're doing, you're not hiding from what you're doing. By recruiting, you just continue to emphasize the importance of the kind of business you're conducting. Oh, and you might get a recruit. Wouldn't that be a wonderful bonus? A couple of other things just to wrap up this section I want to mention is make sure you leave information behind. And here in the notes, I say leave a packet of information. In that brochure, on your business card, write down the premium amount, write down the date it's coming out. Don't leave any confusion about that. Make sure they can easily put their hands on something that reminds them of what they've done. Now, I think I've got a pretty good memory. I think I make pretty good financial decisions. I think I have good reasons behind them. But guess what? Every now and then I go back to my notes. And if I do it, I know these people do. Help them out. Do them the favor of letting them know exactly what's behind this decision. Help them out by leaving that information behind. It will pay dividends in the long run. Lastly, recap what's going to happen next. Policy is going to be sent in. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to be issued. Now, I just said 2 to 3 weeks, and we know that 90% of the business we have out there gets issued in 2 to 3 days. But I'm the one that recommends, say, 2 to 3 weeks. And when it happens in a whole lot quicker than that, and I would say 2 to 3 weeks could happen sooner, you've just now become a hero. Most of these people have never applied for insurance. They have no idea how long it takes. Set an expectation so that you're able to exceed that expectation. 2 to 3 weeks, it could happen sooner. And if it does, I'm going to let you know. You're going to be the first one to hear from me. Make sure they know that they're going to review this insurance. And whether it's 2 weeks or 2 days, when it's approved, they're going to take your money. No doubt about it. When I walk out of here today, assuming we have complete information, you have a conditional coverage. You are covered. So make sure people understand the value of that and the power of that before you walk out the lift. Make sure they know what's going to happen next. Make sure they know that you're going to be watching out every step of the way for them. And I was on a call yesterday, and Megan Alleman told me about a little something she does at this stage of the game, and she takes a selfie with the customer, shows them how to put it into their phone, and labels it your insurance person. Now, she's got a copy of it. They've got a copy of it. They've got all her contact information. Well, I think that's getting very personal. I'm getting better and better at putting pictures in phones with contact information. I'm not as good as I should be, but where I do have it, I love it. Because there's nothing better to see that smiling face again, because in all the selfies, you do have to smile. So what a great way to capture that with somebody. Just a neat little thing, that little difference that can make a difference in how successful you are with your business. I'm going to now move on to some post-home things. It's at the top of that second page you have in front of you. If you have an administrative person, and I think it's incredibly valuable to have one, but if you don't, you can do this yourself, and that is to have the administrative person call the customer, say thank you for your business. You have made a terrific decision on behalf of your family. We have your application. It's going to be sent in today. We expect it to be processed within the next 2 to 3 weeks, sooner possibly. In order to make sure everything is accurate, I want to verify a few things with you. Spelling of the name, amount of coverage, premium amount, mailing address, Social Security number. Just verify a few things, making sure it's all clear and accurate. And let them know that we will be monitoring the business each day. In any event, you reach out to the agent, can't reach them, here's my name and number. Once again, you've demonstrated a team is here to help get you what you need. That person can also be monitoring the pending if you're not able to do it yourself each day, seeing what's going on. Because in my experience, 80 to 90% of what's in pending, you can impact moving along. Even if it seems to be, oh, the customer's got to do this, well, reach out to that customer and make sure they know how to do whatever it is they need to do. Stay on top of those things. Keep them moving along. The speed works to your advantage. Business that's issued quicker tends to stick, and we all know the business that stays on the books pays the best commissions. Stay on top of that, and you will help them confirm the decision they made was a good decision, and they were going to keep that business. Once the case is issued, make a phone call to them. Congratulations, it's been issued. You should be seeing a policy in the mail real soon. Please call me when you receive it, and I'll stop by to review it with you, or we can do that over the phone. Somehow, again, reinforce what's going on. And in some way, stay in contact with the customer. And again, this was something I recall Olga talking about, is the periodic touch and base. Is it a card because of a birthday? Is it just stopping by? Somehow to have that moment to connect with a customer. What's that worth to us? Well, I think it's invaluable. We can't stop by and see everybody every week, but we can stay in contact in some way with the customer to make sure they understand that relationship we have. The annual reviews. Now we're getting out a little bit longer, but if you think about when sometimes people ask me, so why should I do an annual review? Is how do you know what? Surely nothing's changed. Well, I'm going to invite you to think of your own personal situation. Look back 30 days. Do you know anybody who's been married, promoted, lost a loved one, purchased a home, changed jobs, moved to the area, If the answer is no, I can't think about it in the past 30 days, go back 90 days. I personally think it'd be hard for you to go back any further than that and not now start having a list of people who come into this category. Well, all these life events are what cause people to think about their insurance program. All these life events cause people to take action, whereas in the past they may not have. So these annual reviews are just invaluable to you in order to maintain business, grow business. You know, there's not a better lead than a referral. Someone who's willing to give you that name and contact and maybe make a phone call of introduction to get you started with that individual. I want you to look at the middle of that second page, and there's a series of dot points, and it talks about, you know, these things we've talked about help us avoid the most common either inquiries to an insurance company or complaints that customers have. And I think as I walk down through these, you're going to go, really? For some of them. But these are what we hear. This is when we ask people why they stopped their coverage, why they didn't take the business to begin with, this is what we hear. I did not know I was buying life insurance. Now, can you imagine if you used the ATM, if you talked about why they sent in a lead, if you've understood that need, how does someone get to the point they don't know they're buying life insurance? You want to make sure that's not one of your customers. I did not remember it would cost this amount. Did you write it down on your card, on the brochure? Did you give them 3 options so they could choose something within their budget? Did you talk about their budget? You do that, there's not going to be confusion about how much it's going to be. Couldn't remember why I bought it in the first place, and I decided to get rid of it. Oh my goodness. You've got a story. If you've developed a story, if you had a discussion with this person about why they're doing this, they're not going to forget that. It's just not going to happen. This next one I just love. I didn't think the insurance company was going to take my money until you got back to me to tell me I was approved. Please don't do that to people. You know, let them know. One thing's for sure. This is going to get looked at and they're going to take your money. Err on the side of approval, err on the side they're going to take your money. Now, if you pick a future draft date, it's not going to happen until that date. Otherwise, let them know it's going to come out of your check. We're going to take your money. And by the way, in the meantime, you had coverage. Don't confuse people. Don't. Now, I realize sometimes we tell people you got the right to change your mind. I sure wouldn't bring that up unless someone brought it up to me. If they bring it up, yes, you have a right to choose. In the meantime, they're going to take your money. You're going to pay for this insurance. Can you get your money back? Yes. But I'm going to ask you something to do. Don't do that until we have a conversation. Why would you do that? The need's not going to change. You're buying it for these reasons. I can't imagine it would have changed. Don't let yourself get into that habit of, some people think that it's an easy way to get people to agree by letting them know they can change their mind and cancel. That's not a good way to help somebody. That's not a good way to reinforce a good decision. The way to reinforce a good decision is making sure people are prepared to overcome any challenges to keep that insurance in place. Next one talks about canceling because it took too long to get it processed. Are you staying in touch with people? If you're an administrative support person and you are keeping up with it, that just shouldn't happen. You didn't get the policy. Again, are you monitoring to see that things are happening? Are you talking to the customer to see that they have it? In every policy, something called a spec page, a specification page. Amount of coverage, premium amount, insured, the key stuff. That's all we're talking about walking through with someone when they get their policy. So we want to make sure they have it and make sure they've been able to deal with that. This one about I decided I could not afford the monthly cost of insurance. Once again, have you been devoting some time in that discussion to make sure a person understands the commitment, whether it's for life or whatever the term of the policy is? Have they thought about their budget? Have they thought about things coming up in life and how they would deal with it? Because in the event something happened in their life and they didn't have this coverage, the trauma, the financial burden is far exceeds whatever some sort of a monthly commitment would have been to this customer. And they need to have thought that through. And that's just not something that's in someone's best interest. I've been told many times, if you think it's expensive to have someone die when you do have an insurance policy, how expensive is it when someone dies and you don't? Have you noticed of late, anytime there's a tragedy in your community, whether it's a young person dying from an auto accident or some of these school incidents we've had, how many times do you hear about GoFundMe campaigns? In life, I've said this before on stage, we know 100% of the people are going to die. We also know somebody's going to pay for it. There's just no other way around it. So understanding that sincerely and being prepared to deal with that is so important, because not being prepared can be catastrophic. If you think you have troubles now, they're nothing compared to what you'd have if you don't have a good program in place. It's just horrible. Just horrible. I'm going to just kind of recap a couple general principles that come through in this program, I hope, and that is establish a dialogue with your customer. Talk with them enough that they get the impression you care, you're interested, and the recommendations you've made are relevant to their circumstances. Listen. Challenge, there's another John Maxwell book that says great leaders ask good questions. And if there's an area of development for me, that's one I'm working on. When I talk with my kids, I talk with a friend and they tell me about something they're dealing with, I have this tendency to right go into solutions. Oh, here's what I'd do about that. No, what I should be doing is having 2 or 3 questions to ask to seek better understanding. Now, I think we have to work at asking questions. So before you go into home in preparation and you've looked at this lead, you maybe you heard a dog barking in the background when you were on the call setting the appointment. Maybe you heard a baby crying. Make a note so that you can ask questions of the customer. You could have swore I heard a dog in the background when I was on the phone with you. Did you put your puppy away, or what's going on? You know, what are your questions? The questions about why this lead came in. If it was a circumstance of a family relying, well, ask the follow-up question: what happened in that situation? And use one of the most powerful tools in sales, that is silence. Wait them out long enough to talk to you. Sometimes being patient with silence is a way of showing to a person your commitment to hear them. If you're impatient, they may think you're asking a question just to ask the question. If you're patient, wow. I think it's Andy Albright more than once, and Jeff Bright has done this too. Sometimes you hear something and you have no idea what to say, and the best answer is, wow, I've never experienced that. Wow. But you know, just by saying that conveys that's a big deal to you. It was a big impact to you. I don't have all the answers. My life experience is different, but I sure understand what's going on. So learn to listen. Learn to understand why these people are making a decision they're making. A few other points are here, but one of the last ones for me is don't surprise them. You know, in life, when somebody says, "Boy, I was surprised," we frequently think it's a negative thing. There are good surprises, birthday surprises, maybe hit the lottery, but generally, you don't want to surprise a customer. Let them know what's going to be happening. And if there's if there's a rating on a case, remember, that's not bad news. The good news is they're still approved, right? We've submitted your case based on your health. You are going to be covered. However, there's been a rating placed to it. And you've got a couple options. You can go with the same amount of coverage with that rating, or you even have a chance of cutting back on the coverage to stay within their budget. You have options to get them coverage. You did not determine their health condition. You didn't create that. But don't surprise them. Let them know. You're educating, you're training people to understand exactly how it works for them. I'm going to pause there, and Andy, if you're still on the call, I want to pause for a second to see if you're out there, and I'd like to get your thoughts on some of the things we've talked about and anything that may have stood out for you.
Yeah, I was on most of it. I dropped for a minute, but Bob, just kind of listening to you go through the things and the simplicity of keeping the system in place and how that helps with the placement. And persistency of building the relationship, then using the ATM as a checklist, and then really the four basics you talked about with getting a check or calling from a home. You know, your doctor analogy I love, where if the doctor checks, how much higher regard you hold him in and trust him in. And if they're not getting a check inside the home, call, and then the basics through the ERS, RX cards, and green sheets and the referrals. So all of that, tying it into how it helps so much with the persistency and placement, and the relationship building of that is just huge.
Thank you. You know, sometimes someone quoted one time by saying, sometimes what is obvious isn't. Sometimes what's apparent isn't. You know, it's sometimes it says, well, the answer is right in front of you and we miss it. What I hope we can do with this material as you look at it is, if you read one of these dot points and you go, oh, that's an opportunity, maybe you got it. If you read one of these dot points, you go, nah, I'm going to ask you to read it again, because there's not a dot point on here that doesn't have an opportunity. Maybe you have discounted what's there. Maybe you have said, to me it doesn't matter, discounting how it might matter to the client. So challenge yourself in that regard. And I think you will find opportunity in those. Jessica, the other folks that are on the line, are they able to comment if I were to call on someone?
Yeah, me, Olga.
Well, I'm going to call on Olga, because Olga was, I've given her credit for a few things made in this report I get together, and I'm going to make a comment before Olga makes a comment. That is, one of the things that I admire additionally about Olga is, coming into this business, she had to deal with certain communication challenges. It wasn't just these issues we talked about. She had other things she had to work with, and yet she found a way to do that by being real and sincere. And having said that, Olga, I'm interested in your thoughts and comments.
Well, it's amazing. All the things that you said is really awesome to do with the client. The connection is the most important thing for me, to connect. So they try to, the first time when you see the client is that to see if they really can trust you. And then I want to make a comment about the picture that is working really well for me too, is take the selfie. I held the client, say, hey, I take the phone and I put my picture there, and I help, because sometimes you deal with ladies that they don't even know how to use the phone. So I held them and they like it so much and say, oh my God, you're so sweet. And that is big, because they see that you take the time. It's not just thinking about the next appointment. I don't care about the next appointment. I just care about the lady or the guy that is there. So they like it a lot. Another thing that I want to mention, Bob, it's about when somebody called to cancel. That is big in the persistency, because when somebody called to cancel, I have one agent that called me and say, hey, Olga, this guy, my client called to cancel. And I said, what did you say? And I said, the answer was, oh, I just said, why are you canceling? Oh, because I just want to cancel, and hang up. And I said, look, the next time when somebody called to cancel, always agree with the client. If they said, hey, Bob, I just want to cancel, or Olga, and I said, awesome, perfect. So at what time you going to be home tomorrow? So you sign the cancellation form. And they said, oh, okay, let's say that they say 5. And I said, okay, is there any reason that you wouldn't be there at 5:30, you and your wife? He said, yeah, I'm going to be here. Always agree with the client. So I go and sit down with the client, build report. I don't talk nothing about the cancellation, nothing about insurance. I build report again. And then like 10, 15 minutes later, I said, okay, tell me what is going on. And then she said, oh, well, I can't afford it anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And I said, okay, Bob, do you think if let's say that the premium is $100. I said, do you think if we lower the premium from $100 to $50 and the face amount from 100,000 to 50,000, that would help you? He said, can I do that? I said, of course. He said, okay, so $50 is fine with me. So I immediately take a piece of paper in white and I said, let's say that you are the client, Bob, the face amount is 100,000. Now what I'm gonna get is 100, really simple piece of paper. And said, I, Olga Mathis, I wanna reduce my face amount from 100,000 to 50,000, and the new payment is from $100 to $50. And they sign and send it to the company and done. You save it. That is so big. Always agree with the client.
What a great idea. Yeah, what a great idea. And your goal, as you just said, that made me, as you were saying that, I'm kind of going, wow. Your goal is to get in front of them. Mm-hmm. Understand what's occurred.
Right.
You know, and that's just so powerful. What a great idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, if you have other ideas, feel free to shoot them to Jessica, shoot them to Andy. And I apologize if there's not others I haven't called upon to share ideas. This group does a great job. You have an opportunity to be even better. And it's one of the things I admire about your leader and Andy Riddle. Andy will tell anybody his career in insurance has not been all easy sailing. He learned in sports at a very early time that sports wasn't always easy sailing, but about the time you got knocked down, you had to get up and go again. He also knew that you associate with the right team, you will do well. And guess what? On those days that your shop's rimming out, you've got somebody else to grab the rebound and put it back. So that's the power of this team. And I admire you for that. I'm just so proud to be associated with this group. And you should know, and I think you do know, that Andy Albright is incredibly proud of this group. And Andy is excited about the commitment this team's made to say, hey, we want to be even better. So thank you for that. And if we continue to apply the principles that Andy's put before us and looking for that level of precision to help us, it's only going to be better. Have a great day. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing folks at some of our upcoming events.
Thank you,
Thank
Bob.
you, Bob.
We love you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.